Hello everyone, I'm Julia Donaldson.
I'm Bea Anderson.
Hi Bea. So we're here today and we're delighted to be here to speak with you a bit about little children and all that you'll be expecting with becoming parents. We're both clinical psychologists, Bea and I, and we work in Glasgow in an infant mental health team for young children who are under 5 and with their parents and families. So we're very pleased to be asked today to share a bit of our experience, and we've also had some questions sent through from you, so we'll try and include those in as we go. Okay, so obviously we're here and it's Infant Mental Health Week, and at NSPCC we're very it's Child Mental Health Week, and we're very interested here at NSPCC to be thinking about child's mental health, and particularly the mental health of little ones. But we know that talking about infant mental health might seem a bit strange to lots of new parents or parents to be, and so I wanted to talk a wee bit about what we understand infant mental health is, and really what we think about when we're talking about infant mental health is in a very positive way about all that we can do to try and promote infant mental health and think about well-being, because we all have mental health, whether sometimes our mental health is good and sometimes it's not so good, but it's something that we're always learning to learn ways to cope with things like stress and difficulties that come up. So for very little babies, it's the same really. They are learning through their relationship to cope with stress, about how to deal with things that are going on in the world. So we want to talk a wee bit more about that as well.
Yeah, that's right. So even from when babies are just born, they're using all their senses to make sense of what's going on around them and to learn and understand what life's all about. And as you'll know, little babies when they're first born are incredibly dependent on us, much more so than lots of other animals. They need really close support across lots of different areas. So things like being fed, being soothed, being cradled. And although babies can't speak yet, they've got loads of ways of communicating to us if they're doing okay or if they're not doing okay, and what kind of things that they need. And it can take a bit of detective work sometimes when babies are really little still to figure out exactly what they need. And most parents find that they get a bit better over time at figuring out exactly what their baby needs, because different babies tell us in different ways about what they need. One thing that's really incredible about babies is that they're born ready and wired up for relationships. So although they're really, really dependent, and they may seem to not have very many skills at first, they're actually born equipped with what they need to start building up relationships. So things like babies, we know that babies right from birth can look for facial features and recognize faces over random patterns. And they can even mimic facial expressions back to their mums and dads from very early on. And it's quite fun to have a try at that. They recognize voices from when they were in the womb, or songs that they heard while you were still pregnant with them. And from very early on, they develop ways to pull you into interactions with them. So sometimes you'll get beautiful smiles, which can go a long way in those early days of trying to adjust to life with a young baby. So yeah, you'll start to see that babies are ready for back and forth interactions with you, kind of like a game of tennis or a dance. They're looking for you to interact with them, and we'll take turns.
Yeah, thanks, Bea. And I was going to say a little bit about what's going on in your little baby's brain from the very word go, because it's such an exciting time of development. Wee babies come into the world and their brain has already developed a lot, but during especially the first year of life, there's so many connections going on within a baby's brain. They're being established. Millions and millions of connections every day are being established, and those are really built, those connections, through the baby's experience and their interactions with you and their relationship with you. So it's like they're starting to develop a map or template of how you relate to other people, and it's also such a big period of growth for building and developing different skills and all aspects of the baby's development. And I'm just thinking, I know there was a question that had come into us, which was about thinking about playing music and TV to your baby, and that fits really well with thinking about how much development and growth is going on for wee babies. So as long as you're not blasting music full blast or anything like that, music can be very stimulating. And as Bea's already said, you know, babies are really born with almost a sense of rhythm already, because that's established. So you can really build on that, and it's a nice way of helping them learn in lots of ways by exposure to all these kind of things. So things like speech, also of course really important. So of course your baby can't speak when they're born, but how do we all learn about speech? Well, we learn by turn taking. So the dance, the tennis back and forward that Bea's talked about, from that point of view, that's a key prerequisite to developing conversation and speech. So all these little bits will build up and help your baby learn in all sorts of ways. And another really important aspect of their relationship with you, it's their opportunity for learning in all these ways I'm saying, but also their way to explore the world. And it's from the secure base that they develop with you that they'll go out and explore and learn. So that might be when they're very little, just about helping them gradually learn to feel confident saying hello to adults they don't know, because they'll look to you to check if that's okay, so you can help them out with that. Or it might be as they get a little bit bigger and start to move a little bit, that they will crawl or get about from you to go over to a toy, but they'll always want to check in and be back with you. But that's all so important for them in terms of moving forward.
Yeah, and I guess different babies again respond in different ways to the kinds of things that you might offer to do with them. So some babies will be easier to soothe and comfort when they need that. Others may take a bit longer to feel settled and need a bit more comfort from you. But there's so much that you can do with your baby to build your relationship. And for some parents, again, we're all different, and some bits of that will feel easier than others. And you and your baby will be growing and learning together. And we would recommend, so NSPCC have worked with Lidl and the Baby Show, and have really valued that opportunity to share ways that parents can support their babies and children. And we'd recommend having a look at the NSPCC's Look, Say, Sing, Play campaign, which you can Google. And it's got loads of ideas for ways that you can interact with your baby. And it tells you a bit about the science behind why that helps your baby and how it supports their development. So I guess while you're interacting with your baby, like we said before, there's a lot of detective work that goes into that. And if you watch your baby carefully, your baby will be speaking to you without words about what they need in that moment and what's working for them or what's not. So things like how your baby's making eye contact with you, or how baby's looking at you, or if baby's looking away, then they might be telling you that they need a wee break. It's really helpful for babies if you can say a bit about what you're seeing and what they're doing. So you could say to your baby, I can see you looking at my eyes, or I can see that you're feeling sad, you're crying. It's time for sleep, it's time for a cuddle now. That putting language around what's going on for a baby is really helpful for them, even before they've learned language. As Julia had said before, babies are so tuned into rhythm and can take a lot of soothing just from the way that you speak with them, the gentle rhythms or the more excited rhythms when you're involved in games together. Babies don't mind how tuneful you are. You can really enjoy singing with them or telling them rhymes, and build it up gradually. Early on, in the early days, you might just spend time looking at one another, gazing at one another, and making faces at one another. Later on, babies might enjoy games like peekaboo and having the surprise of you returning from behind your hands. A really important message that we always want to share with parents is that we're all doing the best with what we've got in the moment, and what we should aim for is good enough parenting, not perfect parenting. No parents get it right all the time. We all make mistakes, and we can learn from those. And our children also learn from us making mistakes, that it's okay to make mistakes and that we can get back on track. So we also learn a lot from our own experiences of being parented, and lots of parents will go into the journey of parenting with an idea of things that they liked about their own experiences and things that they would like to do differently. And it's okay to do your best with your child. It's what we're all doing, and we're all going to make mistakes.
Yeah, and you know, Bea and I are both parents ourselves, and we know that it's an ongoing process at all the different stages of development, that there will be new learning for us all as parents. And so it's so important, though, particularly in these times of COVID, that as parents, that we look after ourselves. And you know, it's such an exciting time for you. You're about to become parents, and that will bring about huge changes for you, which you may have all sorts of a mixture of feelings about that, from excitement to a bit of worry or wondering how things are going to be. And we are all living in these different times just now, where life is very different for us all. And we'd wondered if some of you may have some worries about what that might be for your wee baby coming into the world. And some of the questions that we had focused in on that. And I think that's a really important question to be thinking about. What does it mean for my wee baby coming into the world, if they're not going to be seeing as many people as they would usually see at this stage? So there's lots to think about that, and Bea's going to come on and say a wee bit more, but I guess a key message we'd like to give is that what's fundamental to your baby's development in all sorts of ways, as we've been saying, is their relationship with you, and actually in those very early days. And in fact, probably up to the first year or so, being with you is the best building blocks that you can have for them developing in all sorts of ways. So developing their relationships with other children and so on. Yeah, Bea, I've started to say about that. I wonder if you've got a bit more to say.
Yeah, so I know that there's a lot of concerns for parents at the moment, not just about the impact on their baby of not seeing people, but also about the impact on themselves and how then that translates into their interactions with their babies. And I think it's important to acknowledge that all of us are probably not functioning as well as we would like to at the moment, and we all need to do what we can to make sure that our own needs are met. It's, we're all going to have off days, or we may have more longer periods of things feeling really difficult, and it's important that we speak with people that we trust about all the different feelings that we have. Other parents can often empathize with the highs and lows of caring for young children, and being able to speak to others on the phone or on Zoom or on Facebook, even for a socially distanced walk, if that's allowed where you're living. But we would really encourage you to speak with your health visitor or your GP if you're finding things difficult, and they'll have information about a range of supports that are available for parents. And share your worries with other adults around you so that you can let off steam or voice kind of your grown-up worries. And really, we know that your well-being is so closely linked with your baby's well-being, and looking after yourself. I think parents can often feel guilty or feel selfish if they're thinking about themselves, but we know that's part of being a good parent, is being able to recognize when you need a bit of space or a bit of support for yourself. So we'd really encourage you to do that. But as Julia was saying, even when there are times where you're not feeling so great, there's still so much that you can do to help your baby. Even having long cuddles with your baby, spending time in with them each day, your baby, you are the center of your baby's world, and they will take so much, even from just being with you as you go around your daily routines. And it doesn't mean that you always have to be doing special things with them. We'd had another question that we thought was really a good question as well, about slightly older children and whether or not there are words or actions that we can do to support toddlers who are having tantrums, having uncontrollable tantrums. And the person who'd asked the question had asked, does it mean that they're getting frustrated? And we were reflecting with one another that it's really positive that that you've already been able to do a bit of that detective work that we talked about earlier. And I guess when babies are turning into toddlers, they're still, although they're starting to gain language, their brain is still working a million miles an hour to try and build up those connections and make sense. They don't always have the language that they need in the moment when big feelings come up, which is very, very normal for children that age, that they can get very quickly swamped by big feelings. And as parents, it can be really helpful to put words around their emotional experience, so the kind of feelings that they're having in the moment, because as we do that, that starts to help them learn the language for feelings, and we can model ways of coping with feelings. So we would encourage always going first with the feelings and then later thinking about the behaviors. So I can see you're feeling really angry. It's so upsetting when we have to stop playing. Here's what we're going to do. It's not okay to hit, but here are some things that we can do to make this feel better. Let's go and sort out the snack for today. Or yeah, finding ways to model appropriate responses, but always first going with the feeling. Don't know if you've got anything to add to that, Julia.
Yeah, I think it's making me think as well what's going on for toddlers at toddler stage of development. They're becoming much more aware that they're separate from you, because their brains have developed to such a point that they know that they're not the same as you, which actually when they're little babies, they don't understand that. And so in many ways, tantrums are also a very natural, normal part of development, as little ones might start to test that out. So how separate am I from you, or what will you allow me to do? What can I, can I throw my toys across the room? Is that, and that's normal exploration and normal things that you'd expect to happen. But they will, toddlers will say no a lot, but they'll also do a lot of things that will often make us want to say, no, don't do that as parents. So I think it's really helpful what Bea's saying, is always trying to help the child, with your wee one, with an emotional language. So that's what, if you're going to say, I can see that you're angry, let's find ways to help you calm down, and then deal with the behaviour. But clear messages about what's okay and what's not okay, like hitting and throwing things at people. It's important that there's clear, consistent boundaries around about that. But always think about what's going on underneath. And you'll find toddlers will likely have more tantrums when they're feeling tired, they've not had a good night's sleep, towards the end of the day. Certainly in my house, always as it got to around tea time, dinner time, things would be sliding into more likely to have temper tantrums. So you can think a bit as well about how to structure the day, so that you can be prepared for, okay, this is going to be quite a difficult time. Let's make it as predictable as possible and talk my wee toddler through what's going to be happening next and keep them prepared for it. But yeah, there's no magic way of stopping tantrums. They're going to happen, and it's all part of what we expect from wee ones.
Yeah. So I guess maybe it's helpful to just sum up with some key messages from our wee input today. And I suppose the first one that's coming to my mind is to remember that all babies and little children have mental health just like the rest of us. So from very early on, they've got all their senses on board to figure out what's going on, and you've got a key role in helping them with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that, as we've said, your wee one's relationship with you is so important in all sorts of ways. And That's why it's so important. We'll all have times that we're more challenged as parents in dealing with wee ones and getting through the days. So remember, we all need some help sometimes, and particularly these times of stress with COVID. So if you do need help, your health visitor and GP are right there to help guide you with that.
Yeah, and remember that for your baby, you are the center of everything, and your relationship will continue to grow and develop and learn through your relationship, and that will support them with the difficult times that there might be, or the times that are different from how we'd expected as we're all dealing with COVID-19. And as Julia said, really important message to take care of yourself. It's really important that you're able to have your own needs met to be able to offer the best to your baby.
Yeah, I suppose so. Just to finish up, we know there might be some further questions that come through the baby channel, and we'll be able to pick those up and get back if there's particular bits. So just to say that, and just again to highlight that Look, Say, Sing, Play is a really helpful resource for you when your wee one's born.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Wish you all the best. Bye just now.